Hi, it's Dan with EUJUICERS.COM, coming to you as always from our offices here in the heart of Europe. And this video is all about juicing carrots. What I'm going to talk about is some of the different varieties of carrots you can find, how to choose the best carrots in the store, some tips for juicing carrots, and then what I'll do at the end is juice carrots in the 4 major types of juicers, and just to see how easy it is, how they perform. As always, pinned to the first comment below, I'll have a timestamp of the whole video in case you want to jump directly to any one of those points. So first of all, I was out hiking yesterday and I came across some of these. These are wild carrots. This is where all of these guys came from. If you can see there, there's little tiny carrot roots, and you can actually sniff them and even taste them, and they have that distinctive carrot flavor. And that's where all carrots today have originated from. Now, don't juice wild carrots, and there's 2 reasons. First of all, it's kind of bitter. The roots are real small, they're very fibrous, there's not much juice. Second of all, wild carrots are part of the wild parsnip family, which includes some very similar looking plants that are also very dangerous. That's the water hemlock, the poison hemlock, and cow parsnip. Cow parsnip's not that bad, it grows everywhere, but it'll give you an upset stomach. Poison hemlock will kill you pretty quickly. That's what they used to kill Socrates. So it's not worth looking for wild carrots because they look so similar to these others. But in terms of carrots themselves, we're all used to these guys, typical orange carrots. But there are other varieties available out there. Now we're filming here in late summer in Central Europe. Sometimes I can find the different varieties, sometimes I can't. I have tried a few of them. I went out this morning looking for carrots. I was only able to find these guys, besides the orange ones. These are white carrots. Now, let me talk about, besides orange, 3 other types of carrots, starting with white. White carrots are the most, I'd say, mellow carrot out there. They have an okay flavor, pretty mild, not very sweet, lowest sugar content, but they also have the lowest nutritional value because they don't have all the phytonutrients. Basically, the more color in something, the more phytonutrients you have. So there's something that might be a good base for a recipe, and that's all. Now, another carrot that's out there that is actually pretty nice, I wish I found it. I found them before and I've juiced them, is the golden carrot. Golden carrots are kind of something in between these 2 guys. They contain something called lutein, and lutein is really good for ocular health. And they have a nice sweet taste, not so sweet as orange carrots. For me, sometimes just juicing carrots is too much. There's a lot of sugar in orange carrots. Speaking of orange carrots, the best thing about them is the beta-carotene. And that's what gives it their sweetness. And again, something good for converting vitamin A in your body. Again, good for ocular health. Again, high in sugar, so for me, I like to mix orange carrots with other things like leafy greens. Finally, there's purple carrots. Purple carrots contain something called anthocyanins. That's that same antioxidant compound that you'd see in darker fruits like blueberries, eggplant skins, blood oranges. It's a really powerful antioxidant, and I juiced those just recently. They have a real strong flavor, almost like something between a carrot and a beet. So they're worth looking for, and you can juice them all on their own. They also have a high beta-carotene content and probably the highest nutritional content of all the carrots, so it's definitely worth looking for. Now, when you buy carrots, when you go shopping, what should you look for? Well, first of all, obviously the best are the carrots you grow yourself, but let's assume you don't have the space or time to do that. Organic is always the best way to go because you know if they're certified that they haven't been treated with pesticides, and that's a problem with carrots. If you can't find organic, you have a couple of choices in a store. First of all, you have carrots in a bag. That's your typical carrots you see, sometimes in 1 pound or 1 kilo bags. And then you have free carrots, carrots that are just sitting out. Those are kind of nice because you can choose, you can pick and choose the best carrots. You also have carrots with green tops. So there's really the 3 you can look for in the store. I recommend staying away from the carrots with the green tops, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, this is where all the pesticide is applied, and you can wash these things all day long. You're not going to get all that pesticide out based on the form of the leaves here, the kind of featheriness of the leaves. If they're organic, okay, or if you grew them yourself, fine. You can even juice the tops. There was a story about 10 years ago in a major publication that said the green tops are toxic. No, they got them confused with some of the wild varieties. Home varieties, you can juice them, they're high in nutrition, but again, only if they're organic or you grew them yourself, otherwise cut them off. The other reason why I wouldn't choose something like this, even though they look nice with the leaves and everything, the thing that happens is, carrots are a taproot. They're designed to draw nutrients and liquid from the soil and send it on up into the plant. After they're picked, that continues. So what that means is these guys tend to go soft. This one right here, it's pretty rubbery because it's sending all that moisture up into the leaves after it's been picked. So unless you pick them right away, you're going to get much lower juice content out of a carrot like this. So I recommend buying a carrot if you're in the store, getting the ones in the bag or that are free. The ones in the bag tend to be fresher. And I was talking to a guy that we know here at EUJUICER who runs an organic shop, a bio shop, and he brought in a bowl of carrots one day, and I said, did you just pick those? They look so fresh. And actually he said, no, these were picked 6 months ago. He said, with carrots, the key is storage, keeping them cold. So if you're in a shop, look for carrots that are refrigerated. That's gonna hold the moisture a lot better. Once they're out, once they're exposed, especially the ones that aren't in a bag, those will go softer faster. So the things you wanna look for in a carrot is, first of all, you just wanna feel it. Is it rubbery? A rubbery carrot's just not worth it. You're not gonna get much juice. It's gonna jam up in the juicer. You want a firm carrot. You can look at the tips. Notice this guy here. He's got a little green tip. This was in a bag, but marketers are kind of tricky. They put orange bags. They put orange lines on the bags to make you think, wow, look how orange those carrots are. Then you open it up and you say, oh, they're not so orange as I thought. But you can peek through. Usually at the top, there's a clear window, at least around here. And I was able to peek through and I saw, hey, this has green tops. Older carrots or carrots that weren't stored right will have black. If they have any leaves, they'll be black, or the tips on them will be black. So look for green tips for sure. The other thing to look for is bigger carrots. First of all, ignore baby carrots. Baby carrots, the ones that come in the little bags, those aren't baby carrots at all. Those are big carrots that have been cut into forms, uniform shapes, tumbled in a machine to make them soft, and you're paying way too much money for those things. So you want a bigger carrot because most of the juice of the carrot is here in the core, in the center, also most of the sugar. So a bigger carrot proportionally will have more juice and more sweetness, whereas a little carrot, the core is a lot smaller inside and you're getting a lot of the drier part that's on the outside part of the carrot. So that's the main thing you want to look for. Look for fresher, green tips, and bigger is always better. You can always cut them up when you juice, and we'll look at that in just a second. In terms of prepping carrots, what do you want to do? Well, you want to cut off the tops. Again, if you've got, for some reason, carrots with greens, cut those off for sure. But the tops, because you've seen carrots, how they grow. You see the little tips sticking above the ground? That's the part that gets exposed to pesticides. So definitely cut that off, because that, like I said, depending on where you are, it's a more serious problem from what I understand in the US. Some laws have been repealed recently allowing more pesticides that were formerly banned to now be used, so be careful. It's a little stricter in Europe. So cut off the tops, and then the big question is to peel or not to peel. And there are pros and cons of both. Now, the biggest advantage of peeling is you can be sure there is no pesticide residue. There's going to be less in the soil, most of it's on the leaves, but it will seep down, leach down, and get absorbed at least along the skin there. So peeling, you can be sure there's absolutely none of that on the skin. The other advantage of peeling is the peel tends to be the most bitter part of the carrot, so a peeled carrot will be sweeter. If you're just introducing someone to juicing or to carrot vegetable juicing, kids especially, a peeled carrot juice is going to be a lot smoother and sweeter. The disadvantages, of course, to peeling, a lot of the nutrition is found in the peel. So, you know, you're going to lose a lot of the vitamins. About 50% of the vitamin C, from what I understand, is actually in the skin of the carrot. So that's one problem. Obviously, it takes time peeling a carrot. You know, no one wants to do that. That's pretty time consuming, and you're going to lose yield because unless you're some microsurgeon using some laser tool to get some tiny little skin off, you know, peeling, you're losing a big chunk of the carrot. You're going to lose, you know, maybe 10–20%, and that's juice you're not getting. So yield is going to be lower. So again, to peel or not to peel, that's up to you. If you don't peel, you do want to make sure that you clean them very well. At home, sometimes I will use a scrubby sponge. You know, they have the soft side on one and the abrasive side on the other. If you do that, make sure it's a sponge dedicated just for that. Don't use your kitchen sponge. Those have, you know, loaded with bacteria. It's well known. That's one of the highest concentrations of bacteria in your house is in your sponge, unless you microwave it regularly. You can also brush it. We have some of these brushes here at EUJUICER. These are dedicated vegetable brushes. It's like a giant oversized toothbrush with real firm bristles. You can just go through it pretty well under running water. That'll get a lot of any bad compounds off. You can also get actual scrubbing vegetable gloves. And these have kind of an abrasive material. You put them on, you just grip them, and they're probably the easiest way to clean carrots. So that's a little background on carrots. What I want to do now is bring out the juicers. I'll start with the centrifugal juicer, and I just want to see how carrots do in each type of juicer. So I'm going to be testing a kilo of carrots in 4 different types of juicers: centrifugal, single auger horizontal, single auger vertical, and twin gear. Now, I'm not going to do details like yield and pulp because we did a real in-depth video where everything was measured just precisely, and I will link to it below. But what I'm focusing on mainly here is there any special prep needed? How do they juice? What's the juice quality look like? At the end, I'll do a taste test of all 4 of them. Starting out with this one, this is a centrifugal juicer. Centrifugals are the cheapest juicers out there. This is our cheapest juicer we offer that still is not made in China. It's made in South Korea. It's the Vidya CJ001 centrifugal juicer. Simple machine. It's just got an on-off switch, runs at a fixed speed of 10,000 RPM. You can get other centrifugals with variable speed if you want, but I don't think that's necessary. Main advantage of centrifugals, price is probably the biggest advantage. They're quite a bit cheaper than other juicers. Also fastest to juice and also easiest in terms of prep. You don't need to do any cutting or anything. You can just shove whole carrots in there and it's going to juice things real fast. On the minus side, the juice will tend to be more watery. Centrifugals run so fast, they tend to oxidize as well, so you want to drink the juice right away. It's not the kind of juicer you'd use to juice the night before and drink the next day. The juice will separate, might be a little foamier too. And they're a little trickier to clean depending on the centrifugal you have. They have big screens, so there's a lot of scrubbing involved. But carrots should juice well in just about everything. Yield should be fine. Let's see how it goes. Oh, also they are loud. And one other tip I forgot to mention, I just realized, what you can do if you've got your carrots prepped beforehand, you can soak them in water up to an hour. They'll actually pull some of that water in. We do that sometimes in videos if we're going to be filming all day. I'll soak carrots in water, especially if they're starting to get a little soft. It'll suck in some of that water. So let's see how this goes. So you can see there's some foam here on the top. That'll go away in a little bit, but that's typical for centrifugal juicers. Again, if you want real details, look at the link below. But just looking at this roughly, it made almost exactly 500 milliliters of juice, which is pretty good. Typically out of a kilo of carrots, you'll get anywhere from 400 milliliters up to maybe 600 or even 700 with the twin gear. So 500 falls kind of right in the middle of that there. set that aside, get the next juicer ready. So I just cleaned the centrifugal. Like I said, they tend to be the longest to clean. That one took about 4 to 5 minutes, I'd say, again, because it's got a big stainless steel screen with a lot to be scrubbed. Now here is the single auger horizontal. This and the last two are considered slow juicers. These are all running anywhere from 40 to 80 RPM, where that centrifugal ran at 10,000, which is why it's so fast. This is our most popular juicer here at EUJUICER. This is the Sana 707, comes out of South Korea. And the advantage of this in terms of carrots, there'll be no prep needed, just like with a centrifugal. Horizontal, you want to feed them slowly. Theoretically, I could get a little better yield if I cut these up. The smaller the pieces, the more surface area, you can always get a bit more yield, but it wouldn't be a whole lot different here. The juice will be nice and clear and clean. I suspect yield somewhere around 450 we typically get, maybe even 500 because these are fairly fresh carrots. And disadvantages, not really many. Maybe a slightly less yield than you would with a vertical, definitely less than with a twin gear. But these are easy to use, they're real simple machines built like a tank. Super easy to clean. This will be the easiest to clean, under 2 minutes for sure, especially because carrots tend to keep the stainless steel screens pretty clean because they're really firm, and carrots are actually really useful if you're juicing other things as a cleaner for your screen. If you've got pineapple or greens, it starts backing up a little, put a carrot in, it's gonna clear it up. And again with this, I'm gonna feed them. You don't wanna shove them in, you don't wanna force them, you don't wanna overtax any juicer, but what I'm gonna use is the pusher just to help it take little bites out. One nice thing about the 707 from Sana is the stainless steel pulp container and the glass juice bowl. Most juicers from other brands tend to come only with plastic, so that's a nice feature, especially with carrot pulp. You can use this. I've used it in muffins. You can use it in carrot cake if you add some more liquids, because again, you've got a lot of the sweetness of the liquids taken out. We've got a guy here at work actually who has rabbits. He likes to give this to his rabbits. At home, I usually just put it in our compost. Now the yield tends to be a little lower on horizontal single augers with root vegetables because it's getting a lot of the pulp out. That means there's less pulp in the juice, which means overall less volume. But if you strain other juices, you'll see it come slightly closer, but still I expect a higher yield with the vertical juicer just because of the system it uses, and definitely with the twin gear. What I've got here is right about straight up 400 milliliters. So like I said, from a kilo of carrots, depending on the carrots, depending how fresh they are, if you soak them in water, you can get a little higher yield. Expect anywhere from 400, I've had as low as 320 on a cheap juicer, all the way up to maybe even 700, we'll see. So I can tell already it's deeper color. Again, slow juicers just tend to be a little more efficient at separating the pulp from everything else. So I'll clean this up and let's see how a vertical single auger juicer will do. All right, so next up is the single auger vertical juicer. These are a little bit different. They're a little more complex, a little more expensive than horizontal juicers, but they tend to get a little better yield as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind, these Sana juicers come with both a fine juicing screen and a coarse juicing screen. Coarse juicing screen just has bigger holes, means a little less yield, and that would be used for soft things like pineapples and softer apples. With carrots, always use the fine juicing screen. That's what I'm using here and last time. Another thing to keep in mind, feeding tubes by law are limited to a certain size. With the horizontal, it wasn't a problem. With the vertical though, it's often better to cut the carrots into slices, into diagonal slices, or even slices all the way along. I haven't done it here, just want to see how it goes. I may need to go grab a knife during juicing and do that though, not only to fit them in here, but just because the way verticals operate, they have a safety sensor if they're overtaxed, and they usually, almost every vertical will jam a few times during juicing. If that happens, you just flip the switch to reverse. It's going to turn the auger backwards and pull any stuck pieces back to the top. Then you go forward again. So with some of these, especially something big like this, I'll probably need to go grab a knife and cut it up, but see how it goes. Now you generally don't need a pusher with carrots, at least with smaller carrots. With some of these big guys, I did break them up, and it did jam a few times on the bigger carrots. With a vertical, I would suggest cutting them either down the middle so you have two long strips, or at least diagonally, especially with the bigger pieces. One thing here, this Sauna 828 has this pulp control lever. What this does is just basically back off the pressure a bit. You can keep it in a half open or in a fully closed position. For carrots, you want to keep it in a fully closed position. You want as much back pressure as possible to get the highest yield. You would leave it in a half open for something soft like pineapple, for example. And then at the end, I switch it to half open. Pushes a little more pulp out. It'll just make cleaning easier. I expect cleaning on this will take about 3 to 4 minutes. Cleaning on that Sauna 707 took me about 1.5 minutes. It was real fast. So it looks like got about I'd say about 460, maybe 470, something like that, milliliters. Again, not quite as much as the centrifugal, but it will be a much more pulp-free juice, very smooth out of a vertical. I look forward to trying all of these, but we got one more still to go, the twin gear. Let's get that one out. And finally, we've got the twin gear juicer. This is the Angel juicer. This is the most expensive juicer by far, about 3 times the price of those single auger juicers. And the advantages of this should get the highest yield, should get the most juice out of there, probably the smoothest, finest quality juice as well, we'll see, because it's using these twin gears instead of one gear that have a real tight, they're counter-rotating, real tight area that the carrots get into, and they get crushed really finely through 3 stages. And so Angels are really efficient. Nutritionally, they should get a real high quality juice as well. Again, the biggest downside is probably the price. Also, cleaning tends to take a little longer with these guys because there's a big screen in here to clean up. There's a lot of little corners and areas you got to get in there with a scraper blade. And it also, with carrots, it does take some effort. Most likely I will have to cut these guys because to get it into that tiny little gap between the augers takes a lot of effort. But if you slice them down the lengthwise here, it's a lot easier. I'll see how it goes, but I'm prepared just in case. So let's start it up, see what happens. So let's check the yield here. Now again, I juiced them whole carrots. That did take a lot of effort, like I said, when I sliced them in half. I'd say it's probably worth it. It went much easier and faster. And the yield on this is about 700. Yeah, so significantly more. What did we have? 500, 400, 450, 700. So a twin gear is going to get you a whole lot more juice. Might be a little more lighter tasting though. And remember, if you want to see detailed results of pulp, actual measured yield, take a look at the video I linked before. So what do I think about these? I'm going to taste them in just a second. Well, here's the centrifugal. That is the cheapest juicer. Looks like it did fine, had good yield. We'll see how it tastes. And like I said, carrots will juice really well in just about any juicer. Here is the single auger horizontal. That was the easiest to clean, 1.5 minutes, by far the easiest to clean, but it had the lowest yield. The vertical single auger juicer, kind of middle of the road there. Better yield than this one. Still not nearly as close as this, but still, for the price, pretty good. And cleanup, I didn't mention, was about 3 minutes. So you had 4 minutes cleanup, 1.5 minutes, 3 minutes. We'll see on the Angel, I'm guessing 4 to 5 minutes, because again, that long juicing screen. But keep in mind, carrots are always one of the easiest, if not the easiest, produce to clean up afterwards when you're juicing. And the Angel, again, expensive juicer, all stainless steel, great machine, and really good yield, but a little effort to use and to clean. So what I'm going to do is stir up each of these in case anything is settled. What I'm doing here is just checking the flavor and also seeing if there's any pulp bits in there. So here's the centrifugal. Pretty smooth, thin, which is to be expected in a centrifugal. Let me see though, compared to one of the slows, because these 3 slow juicers should be pretty similar. This is the 707, the horizontal. Actually pretty similar. There's a bit more, I'd say, richer taste, probably because the pulp was crushed a little better. Here's the vertical, the Sauna 828. This one's a little thinner tasting than this one, kind of similar to the centrifugal. Finally, let's see, this doesn't need stirring. See how the Angel did. The lightest tasting juice. That's because there's a higher liquid content in there. The ratio of pulp and fibers to liquid is, the liquid ratio is the highest, so of course it's not going to be as concentrated tasting as these. It's also the smoothest for sure. But all of them were pretty smooth. They're all definitely acceptable juices. And even the centrifugal, normally we say if you've let it set for a while, you really shouldn't. You should store it or drink it right away. This has been sitting, I don't know, hour and a half maybe? It still tasted fine. So, hope you enjoyed the video. That's everything about carrots. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Until then, we'll be working on our next video for you. I'm Dan at EUJUICERS.COM. We'll see you next time.